One of Europe's most wanted men lived for nearly a decade in one of the world's most glamorous cities. He built a property empire, ran front companies, and even advised world champion boxers. And on April 15, 2026, Dubai police put him in handcuffs within 48 hours of an Irish High Court warrant being issued. His name is Daniel Joseph Kinahan, and his arrest may be the biggest blow ever dealt to organized crime in Europe. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how a Dublin-born alleged cartel boss built a billion-dollar criminal network, how law enforcement across 4 countries spent over a decade closing in on him, and why a single criminal charge could put him behind bars for life. Daniel Kinahan was born on June 25, 1977, in Dublin, Ireland. He was the eldest son of Christy Kinahan, the man who founded what authorities call the Kinahan Organised Crime Group, or KOCG. Most people just call it the Kinahan Cartel. According to Europol, this cartel controls roughly 1/3 of the entire European cocaine trade, a market worth about $20 billion per year. That is not a small family operation. That is an international machine moving narcotics on a scale that rivals the biggest cartels in Latin America. And Europol estimates the Kinahan cartel is responsible for at least 20 murders across Europe. What makes Kinahan's story different from your typical cartel figure is the world he moved through publicly. Daniel Kinahan co-founded MTK Global, a boxing management company. He acted as an advisor for Tyson Fury, one of the biggest names in heavyweight boxing. He attended events, shook hands with promoters, and positioned himself as a legitimate businessman. But Irish and American authorities alleged that behind those handshakes and press conferences, he was directing drug trafficking, firearms offenses, money laundering, and violent crime across multiple countries. Allegations have persisted that MTK Global itself was used to launder proceeds from criminal activity. The violence tied to his name goes back to 2015. That year, in September, a man named Gary Hutch was killed in Spain. His death sparked what became known as the Kinahan-Hutch Feud, a war between 2 criminal factions that would claim between 18 and 20 lives over the next several years. The most dramatic moment came in February 2016, when gunmen stormed the Regency Hotel in Dublin during a boxing weigh-in. David Byrne, a Kinahan associate, was shot dead. The attackers also tried to assassinate Daniel Kinahan himself, but he survived. After that attack, Daniel Kinahan fled Ireland. He relocated to Dubai, and he would not return. For the next decade, he lived there, building a life that looked on the surface entirely clean. In Dubai, Kinahan and his wife, Kawimi Robinson, put together a multi-million-dollar property portfolio. He and his brother Christopher set up multiple companies dealing in food, textiles, and business services. Investigators believe these were front entities designed to disguise the flow of illicit money. While most people who knew Daniel Kinahan from boxing circles saw a well-dressed promoter living in luxury, law enforcement agencies across the globe were watching every move. Now here is something most people get wrong about this case. Many assume Kinahan was simply hiding in Dubai because there was no extradition treaty and authorities couldn't touch him. That was true for years, but the picture was more complicated. Irish Gardaí, which is the national police force, had been building a case long before any treaty existed. In the summer of 2023, the Gardaí completed an investigation file on Daniel Kinahan's alleged crimes and submitted it to the Director of Public Prosecutions in Ireland. That file covered years of evidence, including encrypted messages from PGP BlackBerry devices used during the Kinahan-Hutch feud. These were messages that investigators allege show Kinahan directing violent acts, including murder conspiracies. The international pressure ramped up dramatically in 2022. That year, the United States Treasury imposed sanctions on Daniel Kinahan, his father Christy, and his brother Christopher Jr. U.S. authorities also posted rewards of up to $5 million each for information leading to the arrest or conviction of any of the three. That is $15 million in bounties on one family. The DEA, the FBI, and Europol were all involved. Garda Commissioner Justin Kelly later described this as an international coalition coming together to disrupt and dismantle the Kinahan organized crime gang. But the real turning point came in October 2024, when Ireland and the United Arab Emirates signed an extradition treaty. Before that treaty, Kinahan was essentially untouchable in Dubai. With the treaty in place, the legal pathway to bring him back to Ireland finally opened. The first test of that new treaty came in May 2025, when Sean McGovern, a close associate of Daniel Kinahan, was extradited from Dubai to Ireland. McGovern pleaded guilty to directing murder conspiracies. His cooperation and the intelligence he provided gave investigators even more ammunition to build their case against Daniel Kinahan himself. Then came April 15, 2026. The Irish High Court issued an arrest warrant for Daniel Kinahan. Within 48 hours, Dubai police teams moved in and arrested him. The public announcement came on April 17th, confirmed by multiple news agencies. After nearly a decade of living freely in one of the most surveilled cities on Earth, Kinahan was in custody. Garda Commissioner Justin Kelly spoke publicly after the arrest. He said the Kinahan cartel has spread misery and death in Ireland and around the world. Those are strong words from a sitting police commissioner, and they reflect the weight of what this arrest means to Irish law enforcement. Here is where the legal strategy gets interesting, and where it might surprise you. The Director of Public Prosecutions has approved just one single charge against Daniel Kinahan. That charge is directing a criminal organization, not drug trafficking, not murder, not money laundering, just one charge. But that one charge carries a potential sentence of life imprisonment, and the evidence prosecutors plan to use at trial covers all of it. Drug trafficking, money laundering, murders, attempted murders, all linked to the Kinahan-Hutch Feud. The case against him is expected to include evidence related to the attempted killing of Gerry Hutch and other feud-related murders. By bringing everything under the umbrella of one charge, prosecutors can present the full scope of the cartel's operations without needing separate convictions for each individual crime. If extradition proceeds as expected, Kinahan will stand trial before Ireland's Special Criminal Court. This is a non-jury court used specifically for organized crime and terrorism cases, where the risk of jury intimidation is too high. The fact that this case is headed to the Special Criminal Court tells you exactly how dangerous authorities consider the Kinahan network to be. There are still obstacles ahead. Extradition proceedings between countries involve diplomatic and legal steps that can take months. Kinahan remains in custody in Dubai under UAE authorities as of late April 2026. His legal team will almost certainly challenge the extradition, and there are technical challenges with some of the evidence. Encrypted PGP BlackBerry devices can be wiped remotely, and breaking through multiple layers of encryption presents difficulties that prosecutors will need to address at trial. But consider how far this case has come. A family that ran what Europol calls 1/3 of Europe's cocaine supply. A man who survived an assassination attempt, fled to the other side of the world, and built a second empire in plain sight. A bounty of $5 million placed on his head by the United States government. An extradition treaty negotiated specifically to close the legal gap that protected him. A close associate extradited and turned cooperating witness. And then, in 48 hours, it all collapsed. The trafficking routes investigators have mapped stretch from Ireland to Spain to the Netherlands to Dubai, with cocaine flowing into Europe while money flowed out through shell companies and real estate. The Kinahan cartel was not just an Irish problem, it was a European problem, and the response that finally brought Daniel Kinahan down was equally international. Irish Gardaí, UAE police, the American DEA and FBI, and Europol all played roles in what Commissioner Kelly called a 4-year coordinated effort to dismantle the organization. Daniel Kinahan is 48 years old. He has spent half his life under suspicion and the last decade living as a fugitive in luxury. Now he sits in a cell in Dubai, waiting to learn whether he will be sent back to Ireland to face trial for running one of the most powerful criminal organizations Europe has ever seen. The empire, it seems, has fallen,